Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson speaking to a joint session of the Illinois General Assembly yesterday. I was there in the press box as the joint session came in with the House and Senate all sitting in the House chambers here in Springfield at the Capitol building. And Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson taking to the stage. We'll hear some of what he had to say, but also we'll hear some of the reaction from Republicans who were there in attendance as well. And we'll further unpack this later on in the show. But here is Brandon Johnson presenting to the Illinois General Assembly yesterday here in Springfield.
Thank you. I'm here today to establish a productive, collaborative, and energetic partnership to invest in the people of Chicago and the engine of this economy here in Illinois. I want to take a moment to lay out in a very specific way, in front of all of you, my vision for how Chicago and Springfield can work together to deliver for the people of Illinois. Because pundits and cynics don't always see it that way, do they? But it's a new day for Chicago, and it's a new day for the state of Illinois. For years, they've told us that this is a zero-sum game, that if something is good for Chicago, well, that means we're taking something away from Peoria. They tell us that the challenges that we face in the city of Chicago and families like mine on the west side of Chicago aren't the same challenges shared by families from Rockford to Carbondale, from East St. Louis to Champaign, and everywhere in between. Our challenges are not that unique. They are challenges that we recognize in every corner of this great state. They've tried to frame this as a choice. But I'm here to deliver an emphatic message today. It is a false choice. No one has to lose at the expense of someone else winning. There's more than enough for everybody in the state of Illinois. Because your body of work has shown it's possible for lawmakers to take bold action to lift up the people of the state of Illinois instead of just pitting people against one another. This body has united this state. And here's what it looks like. In fact, that we can take it one step further. In my view, the state of Illinois, led by Governor Pritzker, and this legislative body has become the vanguard for progressive policy all over this country. You've done it. Look, public safety is a prerequisite to the prosperity of Chicago. And the voters have sent a clear message that they want to get smart, not just tough on crime. We have a mandate to make bold, necessary investments that address the root causes of violence. And we must do a better job of supporting, of course, our law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every single day. And right now, we are asking them to do too much and failing to support them through the enormous mental health challenges that come with one of the most dangerous jobs in America, and under a Johnson administration that will change. That's why we are going to expand mental health services for police officers. We will continue and we will keep investing in reforms that build trust in law enforcement, and working hand in hand with you and our Attorney General Kwame Raoul to ensure that that happens. We will invest in promoting 200 more detectives to improve clearance rates and, of course, disincentivize crime by actually solving crime when it happens. But we're going to go one step further to address the root causes of crime, you all. Our city currently faces youth employment rate of 19% for those 16 to 19 years old, and 12% for those 20 to 24-year-olds. As a result, too many young Chicagoans feel there is nowhere to turn. Instead of lagging behind other major cities on youth summer jobs, Chicago will look to aggressively expand the number of jobs for young people. We'll do it by bringing government, philanthropy, the private enterprises together around our common interests to invest in people, particularly young people, and that is the future of the state of Illinois, our young people. In an attempt to divide Americans, state legislators and executives in other states have seized on the influx of asylum seekers, often fleeing violence and economic devastation at our border, and sought to make them a political football. But in Illinois, we recognize human rights and respect human dignity. Chicago is proudly a welcoming city. Illinois is a welcoming state. And with your support, we can prove that our city can both welcome people seeking asylum while also investing in communities that have faced disinvestments for decades.
So it's Brandon Johnson presenting to the Illinois General Assembly just a few little clips of his speech, which was a good 40 some odd minutes or so. But Johnson also talking about abortion rights and school funding and a variety of other things, including creating trauma centers for young people and summer employment and a whole host of other things. But what did Republicans hear from this? We'll hear from a couple of the Republican leaders in the chamber yesterday, connected with House Minority Leader Tony McCombine out of Savannah, Republican. Also, Terri Bryant, a state senator out of Murphysboro, the Republican. They were in the room as well and heard the mayor-elect lay out his agenda, and we'll hear what they had to say about it next here on WMA.
And talk.
Well, we heard the mayor-elect of Chicago deliver a presentation, a speech in front of the Illinois General Assembly yesterday, and we were there on the ground to get reaction from Republicans who are not in Chicago, who are representing taxpayers across the state of Illinois. And interesting to hear what the Republican minority, which they don't have anywhere near a majority. They're in the super minority in both the House and the Senate, which, of course, when you have the Democratic supermajority, you can have what Brandon Johnson said makes Illinois a vanguard for progressive policies. But that can get expensive, according to Republicans. So let's go ahead and hear now from State's Representative Tony McCombine, who was the first I connected with right after Johnson's speech yesterday. And she laid out some of her concerns and what she heard from Johnson when she sat there and listened to all of what he had to say and all he had to present.
I believe it was the most political speech I've heard on the floor in 7 years. So it was unfortunate. I think he started out, unfortunately, right away, thanking Harmon and Welch and forgetting Curran and McCombine. We have 40 members on this side of the aisle and 19 in the Senate, and we represent parts of all 102 counties. So that was an unfortunate start. I think it was very divisive. I have to wonder if he's not running for something outside of Chicago mayor, and I think he only said the word together twice. Pretty divisive.
So I also asked about all of the spending that she heard talked about during his speech.
No, I didn't, actually. That was a question I asked Leader Curran sitting next to me. Good things, and I stood for law enforcement, and his opinion here today on law enforcement, certainly. And I like that he mentioned LGDF for our local communities. I hope that also gets into the budget. But yeah, how's he going to pay for it? Well, I'm not sure. I think this speech is setting things up for a bailout. Certainly, with all of these things that he has mentioned today. It's unfortunate. He is in town today. He's in the Capitol and didn't reach out to my office to have a sit down with me. He's meeting with all of the different caucuses on the Dem side of the aisle, but didn't reach out to speak to our caucus. So, unfortunately, that's a bad start, even to us.
So again, that's the House Minority Leader, Tony McCombine, reacting to Brandon Johnson's speech as the Chicago mayor-elect, speaking in front of the joint session of the Illinois General Assembly, talking about how, yeah, it's great to hear about all these new programs, but how are you going to pay for it? So that wasn't really spelled out. And we also heard similar things from the state senator out of Murphysboro, Terri Bryant. I asked her for her reaction as well, and here's what she had to say.
Well, my first question before we even came in was, I appreciate that Chicago is our largest city, but this is the capital city, so if we're going to invite the mayor of Chicago, we should invite the mayor of Springfield. The second thought that I had was he made a comment about this twice, about the blue wall, inappropriate for this chamber, and about this being the most progressive state. I'm not a progressive, and but the fact is that this mayor won by a small margin. That does not give him a mandate in the city of Chicago, and it certainly does not give him a mandate all over the state. So after that, I like some of the ideas that he has for the city. I appreciated the fact that he wants to hire 200 more detectives. Good. I did hear a lot of spend. I heard him again talk about Chicago being a sanctuary city and Illinois being a sanctuary state. For a very long time, I've said, if you want to be a sanctuary city, I don't live there, that's fine, but you foot the bill. Right? So that's kind of my takeaway.
Well, what about that spend she talked about and she heard? There anything in there about proposed ways to pay for all of that?
So far, my history here in 9 years has been when you say spend. The history of the city and the history of this state has been spend into a forced tax increase. So we might love some of the ideas, and the law enforcement aspect of this certainly is important to get Chicago back into a place where they can have a Democrat National Convention, where we can have other things out at Navy Pier. Those are important things. I'm a downstater who loves the city of Chicago. I want to go visit there. I want to be on the Magnificent Mile. I want to visit Millennial Park. I want to do all of those things with my grandkids and go there myself. I want it to be safe. I don't want to see the things that we saw the other night and then make excuses about it. So I hope he puts his money where his mouth is. He'll be the CEO of the city of Chicago. So do the things that you've promised to do and do it with the money that you have available to you.
Now, Bryant was, of course, in attendance during Johnson's presentation in front of the General Assembly yesterday, and she was one of few Republicans who did stand up to applaud on a couple of different issues, including, as you heard her say, she liked the idea of hiring more detectives and focusing on law enforcement, mental health, and so on. But she discussed that a bit when I asked her yesterday about what she liked, what she heard from the speech. And here's what she had to say there.
Yeah, I enjoyed hearing about the increased law enforcement. The law enforcement in Chicago has been treated like a rented mule. And they need to have the respect that is due them. They do a very hard job, just like all law enforcement around the country. They've been undermanned. They have been underfunded. And so I would certainly like to see that. I do appreciate that he wants to spend more money on schools, but we have a funding formula. And everybody in this state has to live under what that funding formula is. And, to be honest with you, Chicago got a double dip. Yep. So they should be able to do what they need to do with the funds that they have available to them. So I do not like when someone talks about not dividing the black and brown communities, but then doesn't talk about the fact that we have other colors of community in this state, including white and red. And, if you want to use old church song, red and yellow, black and white, we shouldn't have any communities divided. And so don't just pick out the black and brown communities. We are a state, one state, I'll agree with that, and we should be one community that all is working towards helping each other.
So again, that's State Senator Terri Bryant immediately after Brandon Johnson's speech in the General Assembly yesterday, giving us some of her thoughts on what she heard and what she liked, what she didn't like, and the ideas of where all this programming is going to come from, how is it going to be paid for, is it going to mean more tax increases? I mean, there's all kinds of speculation out there as to what exactly this could mean for taxpayers elsewhere. And some of the ideas that have been kind of parsed out, it's hundreds of millions of dollars. Love to hear your thoughts. 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here with Springfield's Morning News. Again, 217-629-7970. Did you hear the whole speech? We only played about 5 minutes of it, of like a 40-minute speech. But, he talked about Illinois being the most progressive state, and how we're one state, and that the legislature has brought about unity. I don't know if that's the case, because you have a lot of very divisive policies that are showing a stark divide between urban areas and rural areas. And this is actually going to be something a little bit later on. We'll revisit this next hour to talk about the issues of crime and to talk about the issues of opportunity. The Illinois Freedom Caucus yesterday also held a news conference afterwards reacting to Johnson's presentation. So we'll hit that a little bit later on. So stay tuned. It's here with Springfield's Morning News, but I'd love to hear from you at 217-629-7970. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. All right, let's get to the phones. Good morning. You're on WMAY. What are your thoughts?
Yes, hello, Greg. Sean Gotti here.
What's up, man?
Hey, look, we've never, okay, I say we, like I'm still living there, but Illinois has never been just one state. It has always been separate from Chicago. I don't know what Rocky's been living under, but there is a clear divide. There always has been. And to be honest, I don't have any faith in this guy after hearing what he had to say about last weekend in the so-called demonizing of the youth that was just running rampant. And
because he says there was a lack of opportunity, and a big question there is, under whose tutelage, interesting word there, I'll just ring my own bell, under whose tutelage has there been a lack of opportunity? Who controls the state?
Well, and that's absolutely right. And I'll tell you what, if there's a lack of opportunity, why did every single one of them kids have a brand new iPhone in their hands?
Yeah, and it looked like, at least some of the videos, they looked well dressed. You had, even in some instances, people saying, well, their people are hungry out there. Well, the looting that's happening across the country, in a video out of Compton, California, you had people going into a convenience store not stealing bread, milk, and eggs. No, they were stealing condoms and cigarettes, and I'm sure booze. So that doesn't really indicate.
And then And then I just saw, I don't know if it was a Walmart or where it was, but I just saw a grocery store that was just absolutely wrecked. And this young black woman there was in tears while she was making this video saying, I just came in here to buy food for my kid.
Wow.
She was in tears.
Yeah, it's
and
incredible.
it hurt my heart to see that. I don't know why people have to act this way. I really don't understand it. But maybe it's my white privilege. I don't know.
Well, Sean, I appreciate the call. And I thought you came back to Illinois. Did you turn back around or something?
I did turn right back around, but I'll be back in town tomorrow just for a day.
Just for one day, just to visit. All right, I appreciate it.
Just for one day.
I appreciate you chiming in from lands far away here with Springfield's Morning News on WMA.